In February 1947, the Venerable Dr. J.B. Dankwa paid a visit to Pa Grant after a High Court session in Second D. Mr. Grant, who clearly was not happy about the socio-economic problems at the time, said to Dr. Dankwa, "Dankwa, the country is slipping down the hill. What are you doing about it?" Viewers, the country Pa Grant said, not a part of it, not any region or tribe or town or village or hamlet, the country. That has been the obsession of our forebears. As fate would have it, what seemed like an inconsequential conversation between two gentlemen led to several other meetings, eventually culminating in the formation of the first ever national movement with the aim to secure self-government, the United Gold Coast Convention. From this, eventually emerged the new patriotic party of today. No one has shown dedication to this country more than our political tradition. It goes without saying that anyone who is committed to the Ghana project cannot have an ethnic agenda. The President has said in a recent visit to the Volta region, and I quote, "There are people from this region, some of whom are well known to you here in Amejofe, who serve in sensitive parts of my government and influence decisions on a daily basis. I may have my own failings, like we all do, but being a tribalist is not one of them." These pronouncements have become extremely relevant because, typical of the main opposition party, there have been numerous attempts to descend this country into the undesirable quagmire of tribal politics. Free SHS, free water, free electricity, one district, one factory, restored nursing and teacher training allowances, national health insurance. The list of the NPP's achievements in government is endless. The fundamental beneficiary pre-qualification for most of these policies has been that you are a Ghanaian, just that. It doesn't matter whether you are from the north, south, east or west. For us in the NPP, nobody deserves to be left behind. Today on the Majority Caucus, we shall expose the sinister agenda of the NDC to turn certain ethnic groups against the NPP and the government. The blatant lies and wild allegations that have been spewed right from the voter registration exercise till now. My guests would also help me tonight highlight some of the significant transformation that have happened, especially in the Volta and the newly created Oti region, and why President Akufo-Addo's agenda is a nationalistic rather than a tribal one. My name is Akusia Menu, and I'm your host for this show, Majority Caucus on JoyNews. We're also live on all NPP social media platforms. Good evening, stay tuned. Welcome back. You're joining us live on Majority Caucus. I'm joined by two wonderful gentlemen. You might know them. Of course you know them. The Deputy Information Minister, Honorable Pius Tajide, and also the Executive Director of the Dankwa Institute, Mr. Richard Ahiagwa. Wezo, gentlemen.
Thank you, Akosia.
Now, to get into this evening's conversation, I would want for us to deconstruct the topic of tribalism. It's not just a mere conjecturing. There's history, and there's a lot of data that supports it. I want you to detail to our viewers especially what this systemic agenda is and its negative impact on nation building.
Well, thank you very much, Akosia. I believe that you expect for me to start the conversation.
Oh yes, please, Honorable Pius.
Richard.
I was staring right at you, so.
I thought as much. And I'd like to appreciate this conversation and establish the umbilical cord unbroken that exists between the tradition, which you so eloquently spoke of in your introductory commentary, and the NPP. There is a relationship that dates back to the days of yore, deep between the Dankwa Dombo Buzia tradition and the NPP. And if I may just refresh the memory of our viewers,
sure,
that the political entity that birthed the current New Patriotic Party, which we call the UP, the United Party, essentially was an amalgamation of political entities representing separate geographic locations essentially at the time. So for instance, you had the Northern People's Party,
yes,
led by the Venerable Dombo and his compatriots, representing the then northern geographic location. You also had the National Liberation Movement that was very strong within essentially the Akan speaking areas. You also had the Muslim Association Party, very popular amongst the Zongo community. So Akosia, you are noticing that the NPP, from its very inception, the tradition that birthed the NPP, from its very inception, was designed to be very generic in nature and very national. So in addition to these entities, was also the Ganshi Femokwe, representing the Gan and the Adangbe areas. You notice that, Akosia, these broad geographic locations, if you may, contributed one political entity. When it comes to the Volta region, the geographic space, that constitutes what we now know as the Volta region, and even with some part of Oti at the time,
yeah,
we in the Volta contributed too. We contributed the Anglo Youth Association, or some call it the Anglo Youth Organization, led by our grandfather Modesto Apalu, and also the Togoland Congress. This tells you that even from its very inception, the peoples of the Volta region had the ideological inclination towards the thinking of the forebears of the current NPP. Beyond that, when even J.B. Dankwa contested the first presidential elections in this country on the 27th of April 1960, Akosia, take note that in his home constituency, what is now the Abuakwa area, even though he lost in his home constituency, he won in the two major parliamentary or power blocks within the Volta. He won in Anglo and also won in Ho West. That should tell you of the strong relationship that existed between that political ideology and the Volta region. No wonder in 1992, when this new party, the NPP, was formed, its first elected national organizer was our brother Courage Koshiga. And Akosia, you know too well that all this enterprise we are calling partisan politics centers around organization. So for a political group, a new political group, to reserve the sensitive position of its national organizer for somebody from the Volta region, it tells you that even other members of this group have a lot of confidence in the people who come from that part of the country. But you see, somebody may ask, so what has happened? Akosia, it's not rocket science. In 1992, when we went for the Fourth Republic and we were ushered into multi-party democracy again, our brother, Jerry Rawlings, who had metamorphosed from the AFRC to PNDC and to NDC, contested the 92 elections. And so he campaigned to the people of the Volta that, well, support one of your own. And because the people of the Volta region recognized Jerry Rawlings as a brother, we believe that the region and bloc supported Jerry Rawlings. And for that matter, the NDC, by beneficial, extension, collateral benefit adduced to the NDC, because Jerry Rawlings was the leader of the NDC at the time. So that can explain why a break from the history occurred and then the Volta region started to navigate towards the NDC. But the fact of the matter is that today, the very reason why the Volta region navigated towards the NDC initially does not even exist. Okay, Jerry Rawlings is alive, all right, but he has been relegated even in the NDC. And he's been shown a lot of disrespect. If you read the book that was published by this gentleman, Mr. Ahoy, you would notice that this is an institution that set up a core group of young men and women whose target it was to abuse and to disrespect and to reduce the influence of Jerry Rawlings within the NDC. So that reason does not exist anymore. But, so when we won power, in the first time in 2000, J.A. Kufuor, in whose cabinet the current president Nana Akufo-Addo served with distinction, realizing and knowing the connection that existed between the Volta region and the tradition, paid great attention to the Volta. In fact, many of the major far-reaching development, both infrastructure and human resource, that occurred and is occurring in the Volta today is, or in the past, has happened within an NPP administration. Okay, and I can give you, I'll enter into the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo area and establish to you in unprecedented terms the kind of development that is happening. But Kufuor, the Tema motorway to Aflau rehabilitation, that made that construction actually was critical for those of us who come from that part of the country. Akosia, I can assure you, we used to bury our brethren on a regular basis due to rampant and regular accidents on that road because of the poor nature of the road. When the NPP assumed power in 2000, Kufuor set to work and we started constructing that road. Of course, getting to the tail end, the NDC administration took over, but Kufuor had procured, we actually had constructed the vast part of that road. You go to Raura Dambai, that was a Kufuor project. You go to the Ketasi defense, and you know the history. Viewers know the history. The funding for that was a matter of grave concern to the people of the Volta and Ghana. The money was just pilfered away. It took the NPP administration to start the Ketasi defense, and I can go on and on and on.
Yes, there will definitely come to achievements of the MPP, and I appreciate your contribution to this. And it goes to say that it's inconceivable that a party that was clearly committed to consensus building would want to be divisionist at this point. And I want Mr. Ahiaba to contribute to this discussion. Honorable Pius has clearly established the umbilical cord and the commitment and the consensus. I would love to hear your take on this as well.
Well, thank you. I think the history cannot be disputed. The fact that the Volta region is inherently part of Ghana, and therefore every development, like everywhere else in this country, development is ongoing. There's no part of this country that is developed today that we say, okay, that one is developed and this is not developed. So it's an ongoing concern. And so I believe that the understanding of governance gives us a firm basis to have a conversation to say that as a country we are progressively developing, and we're doing so across board. Now the issue which I think Minister laid the foundation for is, how is it that we've come to a point where there is this perception that my party, the NPP, somehow is opposed to the progress of the Volta region? It's inconceivable. It can be a propaganda, if you like, and somewhat, maybe I would say that we have not counted that effectively enough. And I think a platform like this you have created is one that we can engage the conversation to say that it is not true, it cannot be true, given the history of the two parties. There cannot be any day where the MPP will want to do anything inimical to the interest of the Volta region. Now, why did we get here? It starts from the 1992 Democratic campaign and the things that went with it, and the arrogation of one candidate to itself and party to itself that, okay, well, we are of this stock and therefore they must vote for us. And the fear that was put in people to say that if you vote for the MPP, then they would repatriate you or send you to Togo or whatever the propaganda was, which was not true. And now that information has stayed and has continued to be the operational conduct of a political party in the Volta region that claims its stronghold to continue to foment this kind of division in the region. But everything shows that the country is one and it's been dealt with as one country. So there has not been any, I mean, unless somebody tells me that I don't observe, that there's a consistent and a strategized approach by an MPP administration to disadvantage the Volta region. There is none, except that for lack of information and perhaps maybe for lack of consistent effort from our part to actually declare that kind of propaganda as false and consistently do so, that has allowed it to survive. And maybe this is the time for us to go out there and say that there is no truth to this thing that is being put out there, that somehow the MPP is against the Voltarian and the Volta interest, which what my brother was trying to say in terms of development, in terms of allocating national wealth, there hasn't been any evidence to suggest that there's a plot to disadvantage the Volta region. So it's a propaganda that I have responsibility, and I think my brother has responsibility, and my party has a responsibility to engage, to let people understand that it was a false information given, and a party that continues to thrive on this kind of false misinformation must be called out, and they must change in this current moment and this current time where we have information, and we cannot continue to deceive the people that way.
Oh, thank you so much. So clearly, it's propaganda, but there's motive. What does the opposition party stand to gain in fueling and pushing this particular agenda?
Well, it's vote.
Well, let me pass it on to Honorable Pius. He was ready to pass it.
Because it's so evident.
Sure.
That's motive.
But I think that my brother he's a smart guy, maybe even smarter. So I have no problem at all with him dealing with this. What I was going to say quickly before he comes in was that I've observed that the NDC, because they don't have any tangible record and they don't have any formidable proposals to make to the people of Ghana, have resorted to the strategy of wedge issue campaign. That's been the issue. If you go to the Zongo community, you find that when the NPP, for instance, is talking about community secondary schools for Zongos, and we are talking about building capacity, and we are talking about inner cities development and so on, which is a formidable proposal. The NDC does not have that. So what do? They go there with a wedge issue campaign. So they will say that, oh, the NPP will drive you out of the country when you vote for them. That's a wedge issue campaign. When Mr. Mahama goes up north, he says that, vote for me because I am one of you. He does not tell the people that I am building the Pualugu Dam like Nana Akufo-Addo is doing, that I am building an interchange in Tamale like Nana Akufo-Addo is doing, or that I am building the biggest water system in the entire northern region, in Ghana's history.
Or even highlighting his own achievements in those
absolutely, because he does not have those. His wedge issue is that I am one of you. So when it comes to the Volta region, because they don't have any formidable, and that's the motivation, because they don't have any formidable proposals to make and no tangible records to account to the people on, they resort to the wedge issue. What is the wedge issue? And historically, I've spoken about it, my brother has developed on it. Yeah. They will go back to some comments that was made that was really and truly unrelated. They will skew it and dwell on that to say that these are supposed to be Akans, and as Ewes, you are not supposed to like them because they are from the Akan stock. Once in fact history is replete. No, you see, the Asantes and the Ewes, for instance, never fought any war. In fact, they have always been allies in war. When the Ewes needed fortification, they always come to Ashanti. They come to the Asantes for support, and when the Asantes always wanted support, they come to us. And that's why when the Awomefia of the Anglo state visited the Otumfo recently, they both vividly recollected the deep ties that existed between the Asantes and the Ewes. But the NDC has twisted history because they have always, as a matter of strategy, decided that their campaign will be fought on wedge issues. And that is the motivation. It's just because they don't have a formidable proposal, they don't have any record that they can tell the people. They have resorted to these wedge issues. That would be why I believe the NDC is motivated to take the propaganda approach and to take division approach and disunity. You remember the last time the flag bearer of the NDC abused an entire tribe, Sakawa, 419 and so on. He has no message directly, so he has to bring the very divisive wedge issue of they and us. That's their strategy.
Well, and so the final, in the final analysis, what they're looking for is votes, and they don't have a message for the people, which is well said. For me, the NPP, we find ourselves both at the junction of opportunity and being trapped in the perception that we are against the Voltarians, properly managed by the NDC. You see, that's one thing the NDC is good at, unfortunately. Propaganda, because if you look through the history of this country, in terms of the administration of the country's economy and the rest of it, they have not shown themselves to be creditable in terms of managing the resources of our country. So all along, what they rely on to win power is division and propaganda. They do well at that. Now, when you see development in the Volta region, like my brother said, and I'm building on his point, is that you realize that they have nothing to point to from day one. You can include PNDC, NDC till date, okay? There is no visible improvement and advancement. So I'm now talking old Volta region, including OT. Across the length and breadth of the country, you see that they have not done anything, okay? So the only thing they grab hold on in the Volta region is this tribal thing. And personally, I am tribalized in ways that the thought of this discussion that this person likes this and this person hates this makes me nauseous. But then somehow, the NDC have managed to do this. And the only reason they've been successful is that I think we have not countered that effectively enough. And I want that emphasis to be made to the extent that we can engage and open that space for possibility, because we have that avenue now to engage, to say these things are false. They cannot be true. Look at what I think you said we're going to get into the development and the management of the country, which shows that the NPP actually has done more, even though we have governed less compared to the NDC. We have done more for the people of the Volta region than the NDC, who purports to say that their stronghold is the Volta region. It doesn't make sense to me that they continue to hold, that position. But I think that we have a responsibility to tell our story and tell it better.
Yeah. And I recall in the 2016, the run-up to the 2016 election, the former president then had said that if people voted for Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, he would come into power and bestow the chiefs. If you recall, that was said. And we're here again going into a campaign, and obviously we're in the thick of things, but issues of development, of commitment to development and nation building is what people want to hear. They want to know that when we give you power, we want to see true change, true development. I want us to use the next half hour to talk about what this administration has done, particularly in these regions. Honorable Pius.
Okay, thank you very much, Akosia. I think that it's very, very relevant that we discuss what the NPP continues to do, not only for the Volta region, but for the entire country. But before I do that, let me just quickly agree with my brother, Richard, and at the same time disagree with him. It is true that the NDC has done the wedge politics. They have done propaganda. And we have been trapped somewhat. But I think that we should not be too worried, because at the end of the day, right will always triumph over evil. And there's been wisdom in the NPP approach that let us stick to the issues. Let us tell the people the truth. Propaganda will have its day, but at the end of the day, the people will wake up to the reality. And that is why when you notice, for us in the Volta region, we have been on the ascendancy in the NPP. Every election cycle, the NPP votes in the Volta are appreciating. And every election cycle, the NDC votes in the Volta are depreciating. And so they should be worried, and we're excited that their propaganda may have had this day, but as the days go by, the people become more informed about what the truth is, and then they will respond. And so,
do you think that is what makes them jittery?
Exactly the point.
Because people can see through the propaganda now.
People can see through the propaganda now. And if you looked at the warm reception that His Excellency the President has been receiving all across, especially the last time he was in the Volta region, it is telling that, look, the propaganda is not sustainable. And that is why they have had to go back to the region and try to whip up the sentiments again, but it's not working. It is not going to work. You can fool all the people all the time, okay? You can fool some of the people some of the time, but you cannot fool all of the people all of the time. And so the people of the Volta region are responding to the NPP politics of message, politics of hope, and even human being wise. Richard, I can assure you, and if you allow me, I'll give you the data. The NPP has amplified always more. If you looked at ministerial appointments, deputy ministerial appointments, ambassadorial appointments, all kinds of things, the NPP has amplified the Volta region far, far more than the NDC. And so the people see this and they are responding. Yeah. Now, coming back to the issue you raised about development. First of all, let's put it on record that development is both infrastructure and human.
Absolutely.
And so, for me, there are two things that we as Voltarians, we have always held as bragging rights. And I don't know if Richard agrees with me, but when I was growing up, the Volta person carried himself about as book long. You go to the university, all the old professors, they are supposed, the Volta region is supposed to be full of people who like going to school and studying. And so Volta for no book long for we are supposed to be book long people. That was one of our bragging rights. Again, if you come to Accra, you want to do carpentry, you want to do masonry, you want to do tiling, all those skilled and vocational work, they will refer you to go into the Volta because the person from the Volta has some natural flair when it comes to those things. And it used to be our bragging right as a people from the region. You know what the NDC did to education? They monetized it and they made it much more difficult for the ordinary Voltarian to proceed after JHS. Really? Because how are you going to find 2,000 cities and old cities, 20 million, to go to a boarding house for your secondary education, or 1,000 cities to go to a day school if you wanted to go to a day school? And so
they put limitations to what is inherently
and took away our bragging rights. And took away our bragging rights. Today, Nana Akufo-Addo has, and I've argued in the Volta region and elsewhere, that if any region will feel that this policy of free SHS is biased towards them, it is us in the Volta. It takes us back to those good old days where the book long thing about the Volta can still come up, because now everybody can go to school. And so I think that beyond the infrastructure, which we will come to, one of the major things that we in the Volta region are excited about the Nana Akufo-Addo and the NPP about is free education, and also his focus on TVET, because we are naturally gifted at it. Akosia, you can confirm to me or not, if in Accra, how many times haven't we heard people, when it comes to the skilled and vocational labor, they will say to you that, please, I recommend that you speak to one of our Volta brethren. Yeah. We had it as a bragging right. The NDC took it from us. So I think that is crucial, and we must place it on record for those of us in the Volta region to be assured that under Nana Akufo-Addo, the good old days where we had bragging rights, because clearly, Akosia, we have still not found our gold yet. We have still not found our timber yet. Okay? We have still not found our bauxite yet, and so on. Other regions have done the same. They have done that already. What we have found right now is our ability to go to school and be book long. That was taken away from us. But beyond that, and I'll allow my brother to come in. Then I can
disagree.
But even if you talked about infrastructure, but Richard, you come in. Let me catch a breath.
And
these things are sentimental. Sometimes I feel like crying. You know.
I know. I see you're very passionate about it, and not only on this platform. I've heard you communicate on this very passionately because such an agenda sets people back, and it can change the fortunes of young people as well. We're going to show it on the screens. We're going to show you some projects that have been undertaken in the Volta region. So on your screens, viewers, you're seeing 6 classroom unit blocks now being completed in the Volta region. There are 6-seater KVIPs. You know, usually when we talk about KVIPs, people are like, why do you have to talk about KVIPs? It's so menial. But the point is, we still have over 80% of our population not having access to bathroom facilities. It's shocking, but it's true. So this helps communities, and we might take it for granted, but it does help people. There are 6-unit classroom blocks in Kwanta Senior High School. There's also projects on, there are a lot of 6 classroom unit blocks expanding current administrations in some of the existing schools. Now, I want us to, Richard.
You cannot do this.
I know.
You know why?
Because it's a whole lot.
It's a lot.
I'm looking at the list and I'm like, you know what? Probably we need to have just one, one segment, 1 hour where we talk about it.
Richard,
we're
before
exhausted,
you come in, on my way here, I took time to look through the tracker. Mm-hmm. There are 364 different projects, from big to small. 364 that are currently ongoing. Some of the 364 are completed. They are done. They are in use. There are some others that are nearing completion. Truly and really unprecedented. In education alone, 66 projects.
Yeah.
And we are talking about very large projects, especially in education. In energy, for instance, 153. And the list goes on. A total of over 364 projects. So if you're going to be showing these projects, then we might as well just keep quiet and you take the rest of the time. And it will not even be enough to go through the list of projects that have been happening in the Volta region alone.
Yeah. No, I'm actually going to Richard now. You look at the connection of the region to the opposition party, where clearly is established that is their World Bank. And you consider the number of years that the opposition party has been in government, you would think that the Volta region would inherently be even the capital of the country in terms of development, in terms of opportunity, in terms of driving growth, and turning it into something that is, just amazing for everybody to want to go to. Now, when it comes to free SHS, I particularly am excited about it because I can see the long-term prospect of having a well-educated citizenry. And I know he's also passionate to Richard because he's spoken about it on other platforms. I want him to just add to what Honorable Pius has said and his take on that as well.
Yeah, I think there cannot be anything greater than educating people across board. And it's almost painful to want to sectionalize this discussion because of some primitive politics of some people. But education, free SHS, is one of the biggest things that has happened in this country, and as my brother said so eloquently, is one that will benefit the Voltarian, because money became a limitation to the natural progress and appetite to get education. So we get to a point where a government that derives its majority vote from the Volta region preferred that it would progressively do what it calls free education, which disadvantaged the people of the region. Now, you have a government which, in their primitive politics, brand as one that opposes the interests of the Volta region, but is the one government that brings free education. And what Pius was saying...
It's ironic,
absolutely,
actually.
Absolutely. And what he was saying, now, one of the things that constrained people from going to school in the Volta region is money. All right? It's not as if Volta region is the only poor place, but predominantly education is one of the things that the people do. And to bring free SHS and not say that, okay, I'm bringing free SHS to maybe at the time 10 regions and only 9 regions excluding Volta region, or now 16 region, 15 region excluding Volta region, for me, defeats the arguments the NDC makes so often about the MPP's opposition or lack of support for the Volta region. It is one of the single most important. I stopped chasing after Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo's policy when he finished free SHS, because for me, I think that give it time, this then will change everything. Okay, not only for Volta region, but for this country, that we will be in a position to have a more resourced human capital in this country that will undergird our development forward. So for me, you cannot today, when you have failed in many, many, many ways, given the resources you have, you allocated away from education. You decided to do things that will inure not to the benefits of the people of this country, and then you set about to say that those who are doing so to actually empower the people who you exploit for political purposes. The only reason I see the NDC might be mad about free SHS is that the people will be enlightened, the people will come to make their own decision, the people will understand and see who is for us and who is against us. Perhaps the people will get to a point that nobody is against us, but we must be conscious enough to vote our interest, not somebody's interest, which often is the NDC. They superimpose their interest on the people to make their interest the people's interest. But gradually, with education, we'll get to a point where the people of the Volta region would want, first of all, to vote their interest. If there's any other interest, they'll consider.
Akosia, you know, I agree with Richard 101%. And to add that, the people of the Volta region are clamoring for smart politics. They have now realized that the NDC politics of the Volta is not smart and does not work in their interest. And I'll share with you. Akosia, do you know that it is only in the Volta region that only one party wins all the parliamentary seats? In the Upper East, both the NPP and NDC have parliamentary seats. Upper West, the same. Northern region, the same. Savannah region, Bono East, all over. In John Mohammed's region, both the NPP and NDC have parliamentary seats. In every region but the Volta region, the NDC has all, even in Oti, the NPP has parliamentary seats in Oti. So in the Volta region, it is purely NDC. If you go to Ashanti region, there are 3 seats in Ashanti region that are NDC. So the politics that we have done in the Volta over the years has only pushed the NDC into a certain comfort zone that their only option is to take the people of the Volta region for granted. And that's what they did. They have taken us for granted. And they will say it to us openly, that we will win in the Volta region. If you ask them why, they will never tell you that it is because we did this, we did that, or we did that. They will tell you that it is because the Volta region is predominantly Ewe voters. So again, it is not the issues. Okay? So the people of the Volta must understand that the smart regions, the regions that are indeed benefiting from this experiment and exercise we are calling multi-party democracy, are those regions that are able to engender some kind of competition between the political parties. And that is why when you go to Central region, for instance, there is a mad rush to bring development to the people, because both the NPP and the NDC feel that there is an opportunity either to win votes, or there's an opportunity for people to show their dislike and discontent. But in the Volta region, the situation is that the NDC has gone to bed, crossed its legs, shut its eyes, because they feel that, or even if you don't do anything, it is as though the region is enslaved to them. And so that it does not motivate them to bring development. Okay? And so what we in the Volta region ought to be realizing is that if we indeed want development, we should position ourselves to be competed for on merit, so that the NPP can believe that, hey, let me go into this region, let me make investments. And honestly, the people will respond to the investment. And the NDC will say, hey, we have to also make investments into the region, because the people will only respond to investments. But if we don't do that, and I'm talking now to us as Ewe people, I'm talking to us now as citizens of the Volta region. If we do not position ourselves and make it competitive for political parties to want to get votes from us, and we have ceded it off to them and given it to them on a silver platter, there is no more motivation for them to want to come and do anything. That's why I agree with you that it is a sorry state, the level of underdevelopment in the Volta region. And the NPP is working hard to fill that gap. But the gap is so huge that it is going to take some time. This is the region that votes the most for the NDC.
Yes.
Popular votes, very, very, over 80% sometimes. They sweep all that votes. What do the people get in return? Nothing. Why? Because they know that whether they do something or not, the next election cycle, they will vote for them parliamentary and presidential. But that's why we in the Volta region must seize the moment and use the 2020 election to make a statement to both the NPP and to the NDC. To the NPP, the people of the Volta region must be saying that, look, we recognize what investments you're already making. We want you to make more investments into the region, and they should vote for the NPP. To the NDC, the people's statement should be that, look, we have voted for you for 28 good years. Since 1992, this region has stuck with you. We haven't seen anything. We are serving you notice by this vote that if you come back, God forbid, in some long future, and you treat us with disdain and disrespect the way you have treated us, we will go back and vote for the NPP. So we have to send a message to both political parties as a people. Otherwise, we are losing both ways. By our own political conduct, we are positioning ourselves to not to benefit. You see, and that's why I say that the people now want to do smart politics, and I think it's encouraging. On our rounds last week, both my brother and I were in the Oti and Volta regions. The feedback we are getting is so encouraging. We want to encourage the NPP corporate to continue to keep faith with these two regions, Volta and Oti. The people are seeing the light and they are going to respond, inshallah, during the 2020 elections.
Just a quick one. Is that okay?
Yeah,
it won't take away from your moderation.
No.
Okay. So is it interestingly, what my brother said is perfect situation. That when you see the balance of NDC's vote come from the Volta region, and then you go there, you see absolutely nothing to justify that. My people should begin to realize that. I am, like I said earlier, I'm detribalized. So this conversation burdens me. That why would anybody be thinking about voting for a political party because they appear to be tribal towards that party. I think political support emanates from ideas and beliefs. About a month ago, we helped some non-profit organization to build mechanized borehole in a village in Agotima's constituency. The issue came up on the radio station. They called me, and then we tried to connect them, and eventually the borehole was built. Interestingly, there's a village called Anyagbakopa, which I didn't know until that came up.
That's your
grandfather's.
Exactly.
Your grandfather's village.
So I didn't know about it. So when the name came up, then people thought that was where I came from. So they called me, and so we kind of tried to do that. So they ended up building a borehole in two villages. The Anyagbakopa one is to be commissioned sometime in November, but the other village was commissioned, I think, last month, early September. We went to do that. And that was the first time they saw water in that village. But they've been asking for this since Adam. And on the day of the commissioning, I have my brother, the MP, for the NDC MP for the area, come or visit with them and was with us when we commissioned the thing. This is the MP of the area, has been voted for, continued to be voted for, but could not do a simple borehole, and I'm asking myself, why in the name of God are you going to vote for that person? But we have brought this borehole to the people. And I'm saying, just to reinforce the point my brother made, to say that we need to engage. I have every confidence to tell you that in my dream, I'll tell you, Volta region can vote for MPP. What we need as MPP people is to get there and let them understand that this lie that has been told you is not honest. It is designed to affect your interest. Now listen to what happens if you vote your interest. And voting your interest is voting away from the NDC, because for all these years, we have voted for the NDC, and the record is clear. In that village called Amajakopa, they have not seen water. And I tell you, on the day we commissioned that water, come and see drumming and dancing from the littlest child in that village to the oldest. They were pronouncing that this is the greatest thing that has happened. And the next thing on the agenda, and I'm saying probably on this platform, that by God, if we win this election, I personally will get involved to get them a CHIPS compound. They've been asking for this for so long. They told me this year, they buried about 12 people because there was a midnight crisis and there was no motorbike to carry the person, therefore the person died. But I tell you what, they had an MP, okay, and he is still the MP. He was there. They've asked for that for years. They haven't been able to do that. And you come and tell me that you love the people, okay? So we need to get to the point where this thing will change. Now, on the point Pius made about the change that is coming, I've entertained this feeling for a long time. I think the youth in the Volta region have seen the light. They understand that this country is one, and this country is being developed across board, and they need to engage. We now have to go and court them. We now have to go and tell them. They know the story of the NDC's failures. Yeah. We have to reinforce the things we have done, the things we'll continue to do, and the things that we in the MPP have for Ghana to move forward. And they are the key beneficiaries. Today, if somebody finishes SHS and is going to university, they're not going to ask you what region you come from before you can get access to this no guarantor student loan, all right? When the COVID-19 situation came and people were getting free water, free electricity, there was no screening to suggest if you are Voltarian or not. No. But we were in this country when there was doomsday, there was no such thing. Not no for voter. Clearly, you can see
no stimulus package.
Absolutely nothing. So you see
that we still paid, and we still paid. Electricity bill still came.
And in fact, not only came, but increased when it came.
Yes.
So we need to begin to understand. I think if there is any responsibility, I think that we should take the responsibility. And I appreciate my brother was there last time, did some work. We need to engage. We need to let the people understand. Unfortunately, we have to do that. But if you ask me, the evidence is clear that the NDC has failed, and because they have failed, they are using fear, and it has been shown to be effective. Okay, this fear-mongering thing has been shown to be effective, that people should vote for them because they represent their best interest, when in fact they are the ones against their interest.
Thank you so much. We just have just about 2 minutes to wrap up. The ex-president, current candidate of the opposition party, has said on more than one occasion that Ghanaians are forgetful. Do you think this feeds into the agenda of being complacent with the region, given that no matter what happens, you're going to get the votes from that region?
Well, I think that
because if you know that development isn't coming, and I quite remember that there were roads constructed by President Kufuor that were abandoned when the NDC took over, and President Kufuor is now continuing with that. It shows the level of complacency that no matter what we do, this region will never cede a seat to an MPP candidate. Honorable Pius, if you could wrap up.
Well, I find that comment from the former president rather insulting to the people of Ghana, but I'm not surprised. It won't be the first. A moment ago, he said that the people of the Ashanti region were ungrateful, and then he said that the Achim people were Sakawa, and so on. His history is replete with such disrespectful and sometimes tribal commentary that has sought to bring into disrepute the very high office of former president that he occupies. So I think that I would not accept your invitation to discuss Mr. Mohammed's conduct. Otherwise, I may go off in a tangent. But I think that for us in the Volta region, our people are saying something that we in the MPP, the people of Ghana must listen to. They are saying that when we gather on elections day to vote, it is not another public event. It is an exercise that can determine our future. It's the exercise that gives us water, sends us to school, gives us light. It is an exercise that should give results to us. We have voted for the NDC, we haven't seen those results. We have not even voted for the MPP, we are seeing these results. The people are making the statement that come December 7, 2020, they will vote for the MPP because they believe that they are the only party that provides the results that they deserve and desire.
Thank you so much. Thank you to both of you. Akpe, as you say in your language as well.
So
thank you for joining us. Time is up, unfortunately. It will run really fast. This show was produced by Kofi Ejepong, Goodfellow Day Ofe, Samuel Brian Boabing, and Kobe Asante. Thank you for joining us this evening.
You can't convince them to give me 1 minute because I have to say something.
Okay, 30 seconds.
Yeah, 30 seconds is good. Yeah. So I just want to appeal to all Ghanaians, especially to the people of the Volta region, that Ghana is one, and that elections have consequences.
Absolutely.
So when we make our choices, let's make a choice that advances our interest, not a choice because somebody says that is what is good for us. Let's make those choices because it is the outcome we get. So let's continue to vote, but let's vote our interest. And this time, let's vote the MPP because it holds our interest.
Four more.
The MPP holds our interest. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We hope to see you hopefully next week. My name is Akosi Aminu, and it's been so much joy sharing with you this evening. Thank you.